Good evening. Thank you all for making it here. I hope you got a chance to take a look at the collections, especially the Keepsakes one that we're here to celebrate today. Anoushka, hi.
Hello.
It's so good to have you here. So Anoushka, you're back in India after 2 or 3 years, right? And there was a pandemic in the middle. And this time you've come to town with your children. What are you most excited about?
Hello, first of all, it's lovely to be here and see you all, and it's a gap of almost 3 years, and so I was feeling really emotional as the dates were drawing closer to come back, you know, and alongside that was a real desire to come and play for people again, to connect again through music, because of course that was one of the things that was taken away, was this ability to be in a room together, to connect in a real space. So getting to come back to India and do that again and play for people was just, I was desperate to come back and do that again.
Yeah. I did mention that you're here with your kids, and that brings me to my next question, which is something that I'm particularly curious about, because I think, you know, we begin to question tradition and what traditions mean to us much more when the next generation comes around, right?
Yes.
Because suddenly you're like, what do I want to bestow on them? You spoke about sharing your childhood stories with your children. What do you hope they grow to understand about their roots?
You said something really interesting earlier where you said, you know, the act of having to think about what we choose to pass to the next generation. It's an opportunity to stop and look at things. I think that's something so important for tradition to be like a living, evolving, chosen thing, neither frozen in the past nor like pedantically carried forward for the sake of it.
And to be able to create our own traditions.
Because I think that's what makes things stay alive, is they have to continue to remain current, they have to evolve. Each generation has the opportunity to join that flow of the tradition that's come from the past and allow it to grow.
And you, of course, have done that fantastically with your music. This is a very traditional instrument that you play. It is rooted in eons and centuries of tradition. And I find it interesting that you represent this collection because, you know, you've all seen Keepsakes downstairs. Tell me a little bit about that and how you identify with it personally, you know. Yeah, this melding of the old and the new and modern and traditional.
Can only say what works for me, and I think, you know, this is something that is so open-ended, it can work in different ways for different people.
Absolutely.
But how I've approached it in my own music and in my career has been like, what feels authentic, what feels honest, what feels like I can stand by it with integrity, because my tradition is a part of me, ultimately. So the core classical music that I was given is also a part of me. You know,
absolutely.
But by choosing to leave it, but by choosing to step outside of it and bringing other elements is more because that then represents more of all of who I am. It's not just 50% of me, it's all of me. And I think to come to her story, that was what I really identified with, because the jewelry is, well, first of all, it's just beautiful, right?
That we can
which
all
I think we can all agree on. But secondly, it's the way that it's Indian and the way that it's not Indian. You can't look at it and slice and dice. It's not like, oh, someone took this Indian thing and then stuck it together with this other thing that's not Indian, which when I hear that in music, I feel a bit dubious about, you know? This feels authentic. It feels like it's a connected whole that is referential of its own past. And that, for me, when I really met the people, when I saw the jewelry, I was like, okay, I can talk about this, I can wear this, because it feels right.
Yeah,
you know?
Same for me. I mean, when I saw it, it was exactly that connection, where it feels lightly worn, you know, it feels accessible. We were just talking about some of the pieces from Keepsakes, and I was saying that, you know, the colors as well, it represents India in such a subtle way. You know, we talk about identities, and our identities they're shifting things, you know, all of us, I think as modern Indian women, we allow space for ourselves to change, to grow, to become new things constantly. But there are certain elements that keep us rooted. What is it that actually keeps you rooted? And of course, this is, again, it's personal to her. We each have our own stories. Our roots are also shifting things. You know, we are not trees, as we were saying. We can lay our roots wherever we choose.
You took us to trees, and that's the example, right? A tree is not trying to be its roots. A tree is being a tree.
So
a tree
beautiful.
is growing, and its roots get stronger and stronger to hold it. Like, as big as a tree's gonna get, they just happen on their own by me being, living, expressing, growing, loving, living. For me, that was something that very early on I had to get comfortable with, was that legacy, tradition, you know, roots, they can feel like pressure if we allow them to become pressure. If each one of us is just being true to who we are, then that root is going to flourish because it's a part of us. They're just in me. Roots, I'm confident about them.
But I think it takes great self-work and
yes,
I
wasn't
to come to where you are, because you speak of it with such confidence. And there's this beautiful line, I think you guys possibly saw it in the video. It says, I get to represent my culture to people who might be less familiar with it. And just the way you say, I get to, it says that you see it as a privilege, you know, one that, of course, it comes with its own responsibilities, but you recognize it as a great privilege, which is really beautiful.
I think perspective is so important. What you've picked up is so perhaps particular to me and my experience, you know, being my father's daughter and being raised with that experience from when I was very young. You know, I was doing interviews from when I was 13 where day after day people would go, you know, how do you handle the pressure of being Ravi Shankar's daughter? You know, how are you going to fill his large footsteps? And it's terrifying, right? If I allowed that to be my experience, then of course I would never be happy. I would never have succeeded, because how do I ever fill a particular set of giant footsteps that are not my own? I had to learn how to turn that around for myself and really look at the other perspective of like, I was given this incredible gift, you know, I was shown this beautiful music tradition that I love so dearly, that brings me so much happiness and joy, that shows me how to connect to my spirit, you know, when I play it. And I was shown that by my parent, and I get to have this incredible relationship with my parent where we're playing music together and having this journey together. And it's so beautiful, you know, and if I allow myself to just stay focused on that beauty, then I can go forward and flourish, you know, because then it's a gift.
A little bit about her story and this wonderful Keepsakes collection that we're here for. So what about the brand drew you to it? I know that I immediately, as a woman, felt connected when I heard the story, you know, and I was asked to work with them. But what about you? I'd love to know what drew you to.
I think the way I approach all connections in all aspects of my work is down to people and chemistry. And like everyone I've met through her story have been so lovely, so passionate about their work. Like they speak about their jewelry the way I feel about my music, so I can connect to that. There's a passion, there's an excitement and an enthusiasm, and I love that. And then I saw the work, and it was like, as we said earlier, but to repeat myself, genuinely beautiful works of art that are gorgeous. And you think of the term keepsakes, and like generally before this I would have thought it's the stuff that's handed down and it's locked in the cupboard. But these are keepsakes you can actually wear in the meantime. For me, anyway, they feel really wearable.
And maybe that's a changing tradition as well, right?
Yeah, and I think it's that idea of wearing tradition lightly, you know, loosely, having it just be a lighthearted approach that you talked about earlier.
The pieces that you're wearing today, can we talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, I mean,
yes. There's the birds, which I think, and you've got the elephants,
I've got the elephants,
right? I've got the birdie and the
And I think in the
marigolds.
shoot I got to wear more of the elephants, and I think I fell in love with the elephants.
They're so
They're
cute,
very sweet.
There's a tiny little elephant downstairs. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's this little elephant charm. That's definitely my favorite piece from the entire thing.
You mentioned the enamel, and I think all the enamel is just so beautiful. It like references and feels like India, but then the colors, I've never seen these exact colors used in this way before, so everything feels kind of really fresh. This necklace, I mean, I don't normally wear big heavy jewelry. I find like it drowns me. And this, like I wore it in the shoot, I wore it on an Indian outfit, and it just kind of sat in one way that looked really graceful and actually looked delicate on that outfit. And then here it's looking really like pow and big, and so it's got real versatility in how it can be worn too.
Yeah, I have to say it looks fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Looking lovely. About the campaign, you know, you've seen it unfold, you know, it's been step by step. The first image I think that released was not even one that showed who you were. So a little bit about the campaign and how you feel about it.
Thank you for mentioning the campaign, because that was actually, and I should have said, but that was one of the other things that really drew me to working with them, because I've never seen anything like this before. Like I'd never seen a story being created like this, and it just felt so inventive, so fresh, so interesting. This really feels like it's them for them, you know, and that felt really
so
important.
Private.
And then I really loved the thought that they'd put into it all, you know, like kind of what they chose to align me with, and then the other women that are representing what kind of strands and stories. It just felt like I felt really seen, I felt really understood, like there was a real reason they were coming to me with this story that felt very authentic again. So it just felt like a really unusually thought out and cared about campaign in a way that just felt really fresh.
And I will say that there's an abundance of jewelry in India, but it's very rare to find jewelry that puts the wearer first. You know, it's not about the pieces as much as it is about who is going to wear these pieces and what is her story. So Anoushka has just been nominated for 2 Grammys this year. Round of applause, guys. It's also important, I think, and interesting to know that she's only the second Indian who's ever done that. I think the first was A.R. Rahman, and apart from that, no one has done that. So it's doubly cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it's wonderful. It's one of those weird things, right? Like nominations feel great. It's like having your work recognized feels great, and also it kind of feels like a double-edged thing. So yeah, it would be lovely to win. I won't lie, but also if I don't win, I'm used to that.
It is incredible either way. Congratulations
Thank you
again,
so much.
and thank you so much for your very honest and authentic answers.